Shubhrata Prakash from lived experience to leading change. She is an Indian Revenue Service Officer of the 2002 batch and is presently posted as Commissioner of Income Tax at New Delhi. In the IRS, she has been posted in various capacities in Chennai, Delhi, and Ahmedabad. While on central deputation, she has worked at director level at NITI Aayog, where she has dealt with areas of commerce, revenue, industry, communications, the state of Odisha, and mental health, and also as a personal secretary to vice chairman in NITI Aayog. She is the author of the best-selling book called The D Word: A Survivor's Guide to Depression, and she has been, which was published by Pan Macmillan in 2016, which was released by the Secretary, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. As an author, she has spoken at several literature festivals. As a mental health advocate, her speaking engagements are of over a decade, include UNICEF, Bangkok, WHO, and Government of Maharashtra, Bureau of Police Research and Development, American Embassy in New Delhi, NITI Aayog, FSSAI, Federation of All India Medical Associations, AIIMS Delhi, and International Patients of Union, and South Asia Institute of Harvard University. She has also spoken at the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. In the Income Tax Department, she has been conducting several training sessions on mental health, including one at the National Academy of Direct Taxes in Nagpur. In 2020, she was awarded as the Mental Health Champion by TIS and Neurology. In 2024, on Tax Day celebrations as part of the 165th year of income tax, she was awarded a certification of appreciation by the Central Board of Direct Taxes, popularly known as the FM Awards, which was presented by the Honorable Finance Minister of India. We are so honored to have her here present with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, a big thanks to Vijay and the Mental Health Support Foundation for having me here to speak to all of you today. Coming from Delhi, a city of stuffed suits, I decided to dress for Bindas Mumbai or Bindas Bombay or Must Mumbai, as you wish to frame it. So let me go back about a month or more than a month in time. And that was when Vijay asked me that, can you come to Mumbai to speak today? And I told Vijay, which is something that I admit to you, that I don't have bipolar disorder. So am I a fraud? I mean, I did feel like a bit of a fraud delivering the keynote address here at the World Bipolar Conference. So Vijay said, no, you have had depression and it's the same. So I'm just taking Vijay's word for it, which means a lot because Vijay is a dear friend and someone who's really inspired me on this journey of mental health advocacy. So I start with that, with the confession that I do not have bipolar disorder. But when it comes to depression, oh, I have drilled through the depths of depression. And it's just a miracle that I'm here standing before you today to even talk about it, because there was a time I did not think that I would live through to see this day. So where did it all begin? Honestly, this question first came to me when I started to write my book. This was around 2014, and I had absolutely very, very severe depression, the kind where I could not get out of bed for 3 days, 4 days, maybe just to use the washroom. That was all. Food was brought to me. I wouldn't bathe for a week, wouldn't shampoo my hair for 10 days. And this was something which I could never dream of, because I was someone who was very particular about hygiene, so much so that whenever I was in the hostel during my college and MBA days, I don't think any of my batchmates or classmates ever saw me with, in bathroom slippers, those Hawaii chappals outside my room, because I would even dress to go to the mess. So that's again the question, that how was I sitting there trying to write a book on depression and I was in the state I was. And that's when I started looking back. And I think the first brush that I had with depression was postpartum. I walked into the hospital, a very happy, expectant mother, a bit scared of the surgery that was awaiting me, but I had a beautiful baby, absolutely fell in love with him the moment I saw him. But some two or 3 days after that, I was just crying. I was crying in the hospital because I was crying. I don't know. I didn't want to go home. And when I went home, I was still crying. And it wasn't just the pain of the C-section. I don't know why I was crying. And I kind of felt that I didn't want to live. But I had responsibilities. I had given, birth to a child. I had brought a new life into this world. I had to live for him. So it passed off. I was on leave. I became okay. I went back to work. I did a lot of challenging assignments, etc. But somehow something was not right, and things never went back to the way they were earlier. And in hindsight, I think I went through my entire second pregnancy with depression. I wasn't diagnosed. There was no diagnosis of any kind. I did have a lot of physical health issues. I had gestational diabetes. I had pregnancy induced hypertension. So I was getting a lot of care for all those conditions. But the D word was nowhere around the corner. And people would just ask me, when my parents would just ask that, why are you crying? What is it going to achieve? I myself didn't know why I was crying, what it would achieve, and how all my health conditions would become okay, how I would keep my baby safe and healthy. And that's where I was at, completely lost. And then after I had my delivery, I had a premature baby, but thankfully he was okay and we made it through. It was a difficult time. But I began to have anxiety attacks. I guess I would maybe panic attacks, I'm not too sure. But still, the D word was not anywhere around. People said that it was because of the gestational diabetes, and my body was still adjusting to the sugar conditions and the insulin and all of that. And metabolic syndrome also was named, but still, no D word. So it went on like that, and I was finally diagnosed with depression formally in, it was, I think, February of 2011. And that was after some issues at work, and there were some things I was dealing with which were causing me to have these panic attacks again. And this time in office, and once I had to be hospitalized in the emergency for a panic attack. That was in December of 2010. So 2011, when I was finally diagnosed with depression, I just couldn't believe my ears, because this was 2011, right? Not 2026. And there was so little awareness about mental health disorders in society at that point of time. And I have no regrets in admitting, I'm ashamed, but still I was just a part of the same society. I had no idea what depression was, what mental health was, what mental illness was. And I believed all the tropes that society keeps talking about, like, depression is weakness of character. People who are not able to deal with issues in their life, they get depressed. And I do know of a couple of people in the extended family who had depression. And I've also heard all the conversations that were made behind their backs about them and what all was said about them. And then suddenly, this person was me, this weak person, this person who could not deal with things in their life, this person who had moral failings, who was not motivated, who can see the child is going to fall, but who's not able to get up and stop that. So all of this was me, and I really, I mean, that was my eye-opening moment, because I knew myself to be one of the strongest people, because there were a lot of things in life, there were a lot of challenges I'd faced, and I never had depression at those points of time. And a few of those which I want to mention because again, one of them is a health condition. So this was in 2002, just a couple of months before my civil services interview. I was diagnosed with a congenital health condition. And I should have been diagnosed when I was a child, but having been born and brought up in a small town in eastern India, I did not get a diagnosis. I had an accessory pathway in my heart. I used to get palpitations. And the day I was finally diagnosed in February 2002, I was in service. I just joined. I was in the railway account service at that time. And I was about 20 to 30 minutes away from meeting the maker, because that's what the doctor said, that had you come 20 minutes late or 30 minutes late, you were just heading into a cardiac arrest. So I was saved from that. Then I had to undergo surgery for it. Thankfully, it was a corrective surgery, no problems after that. But that surgery was exactly 2 weeks before my civil services interview. So I walked into that interview with 12 puncture wounds from the catheters on my groin. Hardly, really difficult to walk. But I did not even think of taking a deferment or anything. I just said, TK, whatever it is, I'm just going to go and I take the interview. And I took the interview, I cleared it, I got an all India rank of 66, which was like a big thing at that time. Okay. So I was that person who was so strong, who took on so many things. In fact, my first job was right here in Mumbai in advertising, and I was doing quite well, but I had to take the civil services. There was a little bit of family pressure, something of my childhood dream too. So I quit my job, packed my bags, went home, made a whole career shift, which also requires a lot of mental strength. It's not that easy. So I knew myself to be a really strong person, and there were a lot of other things from my family, from my background, which of course, like I think that doesn't matter now, but this is how it was. And here I was sobbing my eyes out in the psychiatrist's clinic, and I was given a diagnosis of clinical depression, major depressive disorder with anxiety disorder. So it took me a little while, but thankfully, because my husband was with me and he has been so supportive always, and it was like, we're in this together, so we'll see whatever happens, we'll deal with it. And that kind of helped me get over that initial stumbling block of accepting that I have a mental health condition. And I also was relieved in a way, because now I knew that everything that I had been experiencing, it had a name. And if it had a name, if it was something that was known, then of course there were ways to handle it. There were ways to deal with it and live with it. And I did not know at that time that it would be so simple, and that my journey was going to be so taught to us, going from one place to the other. So initially, I became a little better with medication. In those days, there was very little therapy or counseling or anything available. I did not have much of it. So with the medication, I was okay for a while. And in 6 months' time, we had changed cities. We'd moved to a different place. So I was kind of doing okay, and I was well enough to taper down my medication as per the schedule given by my psychiatrist. But the next year of my life was extremely challenging. There were health challenges on multiple fronts. We just moved from Chennai to Delhi, so kids were not used to the cold. They were always falling ill. And then my husband developed some life-threatening health condition himself. So that was also a very challenging time. And I think those 3 or 4 months that my husband was under treatment, I was practically living on adrenaline. Absolutely, that pump wouldn't stop, because that's the only way I could handle his illness, work, kids, everything. And the day he was all right, and the doctor said that you don't need the treatment anymore, I think that is the day when my adrenaline finally stopped pumping and I just collapsed. And again, we started the treatment because, of course, this time we knew that, okay, this is depression. So I was on medication. It was a long journey for me. 3.5 years of antidepressant medication. Nothing was working. I had therapy intermittently, depending on where I was. In Delhi, I did not get any therapy, but then we moved to Ahmedabad. So, Ahmedabad, I had a bit of support in terms of therapy. We started with psychoanalysis, which did not help me at all. But cognitive behavioral therapy, 1 year of that with an extremely skillful therapist, that kind of helped. But I was not well. And my the protocol just went escalating. I started with a simple one SSRI with one clonazepam, went up to, uh, I was even on a mood stabilizer for some time, and an antipsychotic because I was not getting better. I did not have bipolar, I did not have psychosis, but the doctors were at their wits' end. They, they just, they only had these tools in their toolbox, so everything was just given to me. But none of them was working for me. In fact, it was the December of 2015. I don't know how many kgs of weight I had put on. I was not a person anymore. I think, a balloon because I did not know how to handle that weight. And I had fallen in the street a couple of times because my body did not know how to handle that much. And then I began to have tremors. So I reached out to my doctor, and at that point of time, we were living in Bangkok. We weren't here in India. So my doctor de-prescribed. She said, "Okay, let's see. Maybe if we de-prescribe a bit, it might help." And the de-prescription did help. But what happened after that was against all medical logic. And again, as I always say, what I'm relating now is simply my lived experience. This is not medical advice. So, any of you listening to me, if you have any questions about medication, please do talk to your own doctor. Do not go by what I'm saying. So, when that relief, a bit of the relief happened from the deep prescription, I said, enough. 3.5 years of this medication, which has not worked for me. 3.5 years, I don't have balance. I don't know my own body. And this is not helping me in any way. I haven't felt better for it may be a couple of days, but that those couple of days I might have felt okay, even if I wasn't on the medication. So I was in a hurry to get off my meds. I said, no more, at least till now. Physically, I have been kind of okay, but if I continue to have these tremors, then I don't know what's going to happen to my body. And I have two very small kids still, I have to take care of them. So, with the support of my husband, I went off all the medication. The amount of medication I was on, I think it would have required maybe a year at the least, with bouts of hospitalization, like most people in the West do. But I did not have that luxury. I had no support, and my husband had to go to work, and there were two small kids at home, less than 10 years of age. So I just tapered off all my medication in 2 months. So after I finished my medication, I went through severe withdrawal, as was expected. But I had been researching, and there were several platforms online, about surviving antidepressants. In fact, one of them was called survivingantidepressants.org. And I had looked up, I had read other people's experiences, and I used all of that, but it too was a ride to hell. So severe withdrawal symptoms slowly started fading. And I think after 2.5 months of having stopped all my medication, simply everything, except the clonazepam, I think that's been a constant in my life even now. So I began to have small windows of normal, regular mood. And I was so relieved. I was just so relieved. My strength started coming back because somehow, all the time when I was on the antidepressant medication, I used to feel really weak. I don't know how much of it was the actual depression and how much of it was the medication. I'm sure it was a combination of both. But after stopping my medication and when the small windows of normal mood began to open up, I started working off myself. I got that energy back. So whichever day I felt good, I would maybe do some swimming because that's something I used to love, and maybe a bit of yoga, a bit of meditation, but not all days were equal. There were some days when still I would feel very bad. Casual comment somewhere would hit very close home. And there were days I still feel very bad. But still, there were a lot of good days. There were days where as a part of therapy, my therapist had said that why don't you start writing out what you're doing every day? And that's true. Because what also happened in the midst of all this, I think just before the withdrawal started wearing off, I was feeling suicidal and trigger alert, but I've already mentioned the S word, so anyone who's feeling triggered, if you want, maybe you can just skip the next couple of minutes that I'm talking. So I was a bit suicidal, and one of the triggers, or whatever it is, I used to keep thinking that I'm not of any use to my family. I haven't done much for the last 3-4 years. I've just been lying in bed, and I used to feel really like a burden on my family, especially my husband, because I mean nobody else really was around. It was basically my husband. So he was taking care of me. He was taking care of the kids. He had a very tough and difficult job. He was doing that too. He was taking care of everything that I was supposed to do because family is shared responsibility. So where was I? I wasn't there. I wasn't there to fulfill my part of the family responsibility. And it was on one of those days that he said that, look, don't think about all this because if you're not there, then we are not going to make it without you. Because if you're not there, I might as well not be there. And then the kids, there's no one who's going to come and take care of them. So you have to be there for us. And even if you feel good on one day in the whole year, that's okay. That's enough for us. Even if you talk to us or be with us or be with the kids uh, once a year, that's still the kids having more of you than if you're not there. So you don't do anything, you just breathe. You just eat, breathe, just take care of your personal hygiene. I will do the rest. We'll scale down our lifestyle. If you don't want to go to work, don't go to work. It's okay, we will manage. But we can manage only as long as you are there. Because if you're not there, then we're not going to be there. So this is something, I think this was probably the turning point. This was absolutely the turning point because I just had to breathe, right? I know when we have depression, even that feels difficult, but that is all I had to do. Breathe, eat, just take a bath, wash my hair, basic hygiene taken care of, that's all. So when breathing and living is all I had to do, I would sometimes forget what life is or who I am. So when those normal windows of mood opened up and I started doing a bit of physical workout, etc. So I started writing down what I did in a day. It started out very small. I would just use the note function on my phone. I just used to write. It started with, I ate at the dining table today, not in bed, at the dining table. I took a bath today. I saw TV. Then it went on to 5. I sat with the kids and read them a story. Things like that. I read a book today. I watched TV today. So slowly, as I started getting better, this was, I think, August or September of 2016. That's where we are now in timeline wise. So I had maybe progressed to writing 9 things a day, 10 things a day, and then it all just started coming back. I didn't have to write anymore. I was still a fully functioning person. So that is how it was. And After that, it's not that I've never had depression again. In fact, I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things that I guess it's always there. It's always there. It's just lurking behind, beneath the surface, waiting for any opportunity to spring up. And any of you, any Stranger Things fans, so so the mind flare, as they call it. So the mind flare, you would have noticed in every season, even when it leaves, there is always a few seeds it has left somewhere which come back up in the next season. So I had an experience of the next season in 2024. Of course, it's a different thing altogether that now at this stage of life, my children are grown up, and work-wise also it's a different thing. I'm also very senior now, but women and hormones. So postpartum track to perimenopause, it's all the same. And now this has come with a lot of metabolic symptoms. Again, the metabolic syndrome that I had earlier. So with the metabolic syndrome and diabetes and all the rest of it, I'm dealing with it. In fact, last year, 2025, I also had to undergo 25 sessions of deep TMS because medication doesn't work for me. So what do I do? The doctor also doesn't have much that he can offer. So then in December, and in fact, the 1st of January 26, I was at AIIMS Delhi again, getting the sessions, 10 more sessions, doctor said, for maintenance. I don't know if they helped because in the midst of all this, I was also diagnosed with ADHD. That's a long story. Again, I should have been diagnosed when I was 11 years old, but I was born and I've lived in that age when congenital heart condition went undiagnosed for 27 years of my life. I would say 20 because I think the symptoms started when I was 7, so 6 or 7, and I got operated when I was 27. So yes, whatever it is. So where do you expect people to even know about ADHD? Forget about any help for it. So I do take medication for ADHD. It helps with just calming my mind down a bit, like the opposite of a prism that instead of dispersing the light kind of comes back when I take the medication. But that medication also, I've been on it for so long, so that medication also kind of starts being less effective. That's what people say. But mostly I have stayed off antidepressants. I stopped on 19th of January 2016 was my last dose, and 20th of January 2016 was my first antidepressant-free day. So if you don't count the stimulant medication, I have just celebrated a decade of being off antidepressants this January. So nothing wrong in taking the medication if it works for you, but in my case, it didn't work. In my case, my story is different because I became better only after I went off the medication. And I'm fortunate to have a doctor who I see, I mean, psychiatrist I see regularly, who's not forced any medication on me after that. We've been through this, that it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it didn't work at some time, if my body metabolized all these drugs in a particular way at that point of time, I don't think my body is going to metabolize it in a different way now. So this has been my story, my experience of depression. Now, how did it leave, unless you people are very bored? So then I'll move to the next stage, which is what was it? The leadership, the leading the mental health effort. Okay. So again, we go back to my writing the book. Remember, I started my experience, sharing my experience from there. That I figured out I first had postpartum depression when I was writing the book and asking myself that when did I first have depression. So we go back to 2014 when I had severe depression. 2012 to 2016, those 4 years were the worst. August of 2012 to that August, September of 2016. So now I'm sure this is something you might all have experienced, the stigma. There was so much of it coming at me thick and fast. And I was falling into that. People would say, "Why are you depressed?" And I would also wonder, yes, I don't know why I'm depressed. Then people would say, "You have everything. You are living the Indian dream. You are a civil servant. You are married to a civil servant. You have two boys." Okay. I mean, coming from a family of girls only, I don't know. This is something that it used to irritate me the most. That so all of that, and you have everything. I mean, how do you know what I want and whether I have everything or not, right? But people would say all of that stuff. So all of that was, and if you only pushed yourself, if you just said get out to depression, it was like, wow, why haven't I thought of that? If I just had a chat with depression and told depression ji please chale jaiye, or depression bhago yahan se, or whatever, so it would have gone. And look at me, I'm not doing that. I'm supposed to go and sit in a that shameful corner, like the kids are sent to a shame corner. They are naughty corner, they're sent there to sit and fret over whatever they've done. So that is there's so much. People would say, come and sit with me, I'll make you all right. मैं आपका depression भगा दूंगी. Then there was all the religious pujas and chadars and candles, and for every religion. I mean, we've tried everything. So all of that was also going on and on the background. And that was a different thing. That was different thing. When you were really in a dark place, faith helps. So I have no regrets with trying everything that at that time. But it was the stigma which is getting to me. It was really bad, and people were saying all kinds of things, and I don't know what gave them the authority to speak about mental health or depression or my life. So I had a team of doctors. The only support I had was my husband, because the rest of the family, even my parents, my sisters, my cousins, everybody was like saying the same kind of things. That what's wrong with you? You were such a brave person. What has happened to you? So, and I'm sure they had no idea the kind of strength it required every single day just to survive. Because as I said, just like my husband said, that just breathe. But with that level of depression, just breathing was an act of valor. It's like that. So I had been reading up. Of course, I out of those 4 years, I worked for a year, but I was on leave for the other 3 years, and two of them, of course, were because we were not in India. My husband was posted in Bangkok, so I was on leave then. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I would just keep trawling through the net. Not trolling, trawling. So just surfing the net, trawling through it, looking for any article, anything that I could find on depression, anything that would help me get better. And there was so much. There was a wealth of knowledge on the internet. And there were a lot of people in the West who had written about their first person experience of living through depression. And there were blogs, and there was a lot. So, reading up all of that information, it was an eye opener. And I realized that I'm being shamed for something which is not a character fault, it's not a moral failing, it's a disorder. My brain is not working in the order that it was supposed to, in the order that it used to work earlier. It was just disordered. My brain functioning was disordered. My neurons were probably the ones that were not supposed to fire were firing, and the ones which were supposed to fire were not firing, and all of that, everything. So then I said, this is it. So one day I was like, enough, absolutely enough of this shaming business. I'm not going to let anyone shame me. Because what was happening is that it was a double whammy, right? I was fighting depression and I was fighting the stigma. So, stress is a contributor. Like, we all say biopsychosocial. So the psychosocial stress of being shamed for having a disorder, it was not helping me at all. I was internalizing all that shame, all that stigma that was being thrown at me. And as they say in American movies, throw everything at it and something will stick. So it was something like that. All the stigma being thrown at me, some of it was kind of sticking to me. I mean, not just some, a lot of it. Look at so and so, they have a miserable life. I mean, okay, somebody's miserable life makes me feel worse, because human misery is not something that you use to make you feel yourself better, make yourself feel better. So then I just said that no, this is it. I am not going to let anyone make me feel ashamed of having a disorder. I have depression, but I'm not ashamed. So from there, I conceived my book, and I had been writing blogs, and I mean, writing was something that I've always done. I've always loved doing it, something I've always been good with. So I had approached my publishers, and they agreed, yes, yes, let's do a book on depression. So that's how the book came about. And that's how my journey of mental health advocacy started. In fact, this very place has been, this was 2017 World Health Day, 7th of April 2017. I was here with Vijay and Dr. Balakrishnan, and this was one of my early first attempts at mental health advocacy. I spoke here at this very same place about my lived experience then. My book was had just been published, and 3 days later it was officially released by the Secretary Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So with that, I started speaking a lot. Whenever I get an opportunity, I speak. It's not just because I have ADHD, but because I also want to counter all this stigma and create awareness. So with that, it has been, I was also fortunate that when I was working at NITI Aayog, and the leadership in the sense that the vice chairman, the CEO, and my bosses, everyone was very supportive, and a lot of cross functional working was encouraged there. So though I was working in commerce and industry, whenever I spoke about mental health or I tried to contribute in some way, I was welcomed there. And a lot of issues on mental health were actually sent to me for on file to write my noting on them, although that was not part of my official work profile, work allocation, but still that was really encouraged there. And I really feel good that, especially because I was there during COVID, so there were a few things that I was able to do. And one of them being, that's what my doctor always credits me. I don't know how much of it is really it's due to me, but he said that, ma'am, you were the one who pushed for, the e-prescriptions, and that really helped. So I was like, okay, if you say so, if I helped, I'm happy I was able to do something. But of course, since then, I mean, I came back to my parent department from NITI Aayog in 2022. And now we are in 2026. So the landscape has changed so much. And at that time, when we were talking about telemanas, it is actually something that you can see. It's there. So that and a lot of other things that have happened since then. And now the stigma, though it's still there, but it has also been, I'm not the only person. There are so many people with lived experience of mental disorders who have been speaking about their lived experience. And every time someone speaks up, that helps demolish the stigma a bit. The only thing is that bureaucrats don't speak up much. Anyone who comes to me, of course, I don't talk about anyone. It's everything confidential. All the peer support that I do, but I do keep telling them, yeah, if you don't speak up, then just like you and I are talking, hush, 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 it'll always be hush, hush, hush. But I don't blame them either, because who knows how it's going to affect one's career, because the world is what it is. And even for myself, my journey in the income tax department in Government of India, I've had to advocate for myself a lot of times. I have asked for accommodations. Mostly I have got them. Initially, that didn't happen. In fact, initially, when I was first diagnosed, that those years of 2012, etc., I was not believed. And a couple of people also thought that, a couple of very senior officers thought that I was just using this as an excuse not to work. That's happened to me. But of late, things have been different. I have asked for accommodations. Mostly, I have got them, especially because of the ADHD, because that is also a complication there. And so much so that now, at least in Delhi, in the income tax department, we've started a series of lectures. I've already done 2 of those, and there are some more which are planned in the future. And it's not just me; it's a few senior officers. I have to thank them. It's not without. It's because of them. Because I have been always screaming that let's talk mental health, but it's not always borne fruit. But there are a few seniors who've been very supportive, and it's also, I think, a demand from society, because people are opening up in the workplace, even in the government. People are talking about mental health. They are saying that they have stress. They are saying that they have mental health issues. And again, sorry for the S word, but there have been a few sometimes suicide attempts or sad suicides also from time to time. So the world has changed a lot since my book was published in December 2016, released in April 2017. I haven't changed because I haven't written another book after that. So that's something that, the one more thing that I need to change when we're talking about change. And hopefully I should be able to write about ADHD, but let's see. So this is it. This is how it is. My first advocacy, my first speech was at UNICEF in Bangkok, because I used to live there. And I think the whole book tour and World Health Day here, right here in Mumbai, in this very city where we are all sitting, and across a lot of different cities in India at different points of time. But I have nothing really new to share, because my lived experience is the same story I had shared in 2017, of course, with a little addition of what has happened thereafter. But I also forgot. Vijay is the inspiration behind that, so I think I need to mention that. Then, inspired by Vijay's Bipolar India, I have made a small attempt to create a community. It's called Teri Meri Baatein, but it's still a small group, not really a community, which I hope I should be able to. But with my kids in high school and college admissions and my own work, and of course this second spell, not the second spell, I don't know which number of spell this is. I've stopped counting depressive episodes. I just look at today. How am I feeling today? What can I do today? That has become my mantra in life. So, but I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful that Teri Meri Baatein would also grow big sometime. I'll be able to do something. I'll be able to replicate even a small bit of what Vijay has been doing. I'll be really grateful for that. So I think I've spoken long enough, because give someone with ADHD and public speaking a mic and they never stop, but one has to stop at some point of time. So I hope this was something that I could share with you, which will be good, which you can carry with you. And I'm no Van Gogh. I'm not even the local artist that you all know, but I have tried to make something for Bipolar India, for Mental Health Support Foundation, for World Bipolar Day. I want to, before I end, I want to just present it to Vijay, and I'll request him to. I've packed it myself. I don't know how many tapes are there, so if you can just kindly, I'll just take it out, unveil it, and show it to everyone. Just one second.
Appreciate it so much, Shubhrata. Yeah, sure.
Uh, yeah. So the artwork goes like this. This is how the depression gets darker and deeper and messier with all the texture that I've added here. And this is probably my interpretation of mania. And I'm sorry if it's not accurate, because I've never experienced it. But I guess that is how it is. It is all over the place. It's different things, it's different colors. It's dark, it's light, it's everything all together. And in between, you have the gray area where there's a cycle in an infinity loop. It's not going anywhere. It's not going forward. It's not going backwards. It's just there between the two states. So this was my interpretation. So I hope it's not pretty. Again, as I said, it's not pretty. It's not perfect. I'm not even your local artist, but then neither is mental illness. It's not pretty. We all know what it is, but we're here, aren't we? So thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, please. Okay, Shubhrata. Okay, I'll hold it in the correct way. Right? Is it visible the right way up? Yeah. All right. So, yeah, right. Yeah, sure. So, can't thank Shubhrata enough for it just took one WhatsApp chat and she was on for this program. She just had to check her schedule. That is the friendship and ally. We are allies since I think 2017. And even before that, we were connected on Twitter and social media. Uh, it is ultimately our work that connects us, right? Our passion, the struggles that we go through, and how all of this we have the sensitivity to all of this. We, heartfelt thanks from Bipolar India, all the audience sitting in here for the amazing, from the heart talk. And by the way, she's a very modest person. She's not talked even 1/10 about all the achievements and accolades that she has won for our advocacy. I think she would be too embarrassed. But I mean, what she has spoken about her Teri Mere Baate is just one glimpse of it. She's been going across the IRS circles for talking about mental health and doing awareness camps. So it is just outstanding work what you're doing in your capacity, despite the struggles that you're going through. And it was an honor, complete honor for Bipolar India to have you as the keynote speaker today, Shubhrata. Thank you so much. Thank you. Shubhrata, yeah. Hang on. Yeah, sure. Yeah, just a second. Keeping this here. Yeah. Right. Please. Yeah. I would request Ashish, our program lead, to give the token of appreciation to Shubhrata Prakash.